Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision-making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Teasha Cable, CEO of C Model Data, and today I'm joined by someone who believes that leadership isn't a strategy. It's a character. His name is Dr. Daniel. He's the author of You Won't Lead Us to Walk and the creator of the 7 Marks of Leadership framework. So Daniel isn't your typical leadership consultant talking about quarterly targets and efficiency gains. He's from Peru. He's built his career on the radical idea that authentic leadership is about becoming the kind of person that humanity needs, not just about getting results. So Dr. Daniel, thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to dig in with you. Would you tell our audience more about you and tell us more about the 7 marks?
Yes, my name is Dr. Daniel Tataje, and I am a dentist by trade. So I went to dental school, and I love dentistry. It's one of my passions, of course. I don't practice dentistry anymore because I am CEO of a large dental group. So I have an office job now. It's not as fun as seeing patients, but it is very rewarding to lead so many talented people here. I am originally from Peru. I went to dental school there. And if you would have told me that I was going to end up in Wisconsin doing what I'm doing today 20 years ago, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So it is one of those things that, happen in life that you don't necessarily plan, but it has been a very fun ride. The 7 Marks of Leadership is a result of this fast growth in my company. Started with a very small practice. We had 4 employees, and then we experienced this fast growth with what we were doing. So we started acquiring practices and very fast and acquiring a lot of talented people. But, when you are leading a group of 4 and you're in one location, you can influence a team and do all these things. Obviously, when you start growing, you can't be everywhere. So to me, I had to create a framework or something to replicate what made the first practice successful. And what I thought at the moment was that I have to form leaders in every position. I believe that everyone has a specific talent and is especially equipped to fulfill a role. And so that makes us all unique. Everyone has the power to make a positive impact in someone else's life. That means become a positive leader. So to me, was the 7 marks of leadership were necessary because that's our toolbox to create more leaders. So that's eventually that became a book, and that's the Leader Humanity Needs. That's my book that I published last November.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I have a special place in my heart for dentists. One of my cousins became one of the first dentists in our family, and he has kept it going. I have several in dental school right now, little cousins. It's something how dentistry is kind of taking over my family. It's really cool. So here, let's talk about what happens when values meet reality. So you've built this values-driven company around the 7 marks of leadership, integrity being the very first one. But what I want to explore is, we know that all companies, that they have these beautiful value statements, right, that nobody actually follows. Except for my company. We live by our values here. So would you walk me through like a specific moment when living by these values actually cost you something? Maybe a profitable client, maybe a shortcut that you refuse to take. Maybe it's a decision that was right, but it was really, really painful. What does it actually look like when integrity conflicts with convenience?
That's a very, very good question, because that's a decision. It's something that a lot of leaders face. In my case specifically, I can think of one specific occasion when we acquired a group of 3 practices at some point. And, when you acquire practices, you also acquire people, and you don't necessarily are people that necessarily you chose. We've been blessed with these acquisitions. I mean, we had 17 acquisitions, and most of them, the majority of them, brought a lot of great talented people and great quality and character. But in one specific occasion, I had this this dentist that was part of the group that I acquired. And he was a little different, I guess, in terms of our values. He people over profit, over numbers, and
Mhm.
we're people driven, value driven company. So his motivation was always more the business side, which is not necessarily wrong, but it definitely we weren't aligned. And he also had some different views in terms of the leadership. He saw like the way he would lead the employees was different. The thing is that he was also a very high producer. He was working hard, seeing a lot of patients at a time. There was a specific situation that I don't necessarily need to go into detail, but it was a clear indication that he was not a long-term fit for our practice, for
Mhm.
our group, and we needed to part ways. So at that moment, I faced this decision. It was definitely the wrong side, the wrong time of the year to let someone go, especially a dentist. A dental practice without a dentist is you can't have a practice without a dentist. So the thing is that I decided to just let him go because we could not align with our values. But what that was at the moment, and I remember my advisors and everyone was telling me that you're committing business suicide because this guy is the highest producer in the group. You are
Mm.
making a mistake. Can you just compromise? Can you just let him do his thing? So the thing is that I said, no, I can't. I can't be preaching these values and have this one of our leaders in this organization doing the exact opposite of everything we preach. So what it was supposed to be business suicide, God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes what happened is that I just trusted and I trusted my instinct and all that. And I just let him go. And another dentist is funny because the day I did communicate this to him, this is the wrong moment of the year.
Mhm.
Typically dentists end their contract the best time is just January, for example. This
Mhm.
was like August or something. We were months away from that moment. So I only had 3 months to replace the dentist. And I received this email from a friend of mine that said, "Hey, this guy is looking for a job in the area." So I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is just got sent. I need to meet this guy." And of course, I went to meet this doctor, and he was just a perfect fit for this practice. He
Wow.
wanted to practice in that community. He was family oriented, very community focused, very human. And yeah, you're the right leader. And I did hire him, but the practice turned out to be even better. It's one of the more successful practice right now. And it was a beautiful change.
Well, I love that. And congratulations on being brave and stepping out and doing that. Now, you said something in the prep conversation when I read it really stuck with me. So it's not something you'll use to get some result, it's just a selfish decision. And so the
Mhm.
tension that I'm really curious about, most leadership frameworks are their tools. They promise outcomes. Do these things get results? That's the question. But you're saying the 7 marks, for example, they aren't transactional. So when you're advising leaders or when you're running your own company, how do you reconcile that philosophy with the very real business pressures to show ROI, to hit targets, to prove that your leadership approach is actually working? Because
Certainly.
boards and investors, they don't usually care about your character
Right.
journey. They care about results.
That's right. Yes, right. And that's something that I am very passionate about because it's something that I have proved to myself. I knew at the beginning was that I knew I had to do the right thing and then things will come. And what you mentioned earlier, that this should not be a strategy, right? So all the values that I preach and all that stuff, I don't preach them because I want to get some sort of result out of it. Like the companies that you mentioned that they have beautiful values on the wall, but they don't practice. It is just basically a marketing tool, right? Like a recruitment strategy, or if you join this practice,
Right.
this is what we believe. But do we actually live those values? And if you do any of these things that I present in the book as a strategy, try to get some results or some return of investment, you'll fail. Because you have to do this because you have to understand that this is your duty. Your commitment is to yourself and to the world. You have to use your talents. You have to improve yourself so you can make a positive impact in the world. Now, how does that translate to business, right? So you just change the focus. That doesn't mean that you only focus on your character. Of course, you have to focus on that, but also you have to understand and see the business as your vehicle, as the way you impact the world, the way you make a positive impact. That's your tool. So if that's your tool, if that's the way you impact the world, you have a responsibility with the business. You have to make sure that the business is profitable and is sustainable. And you have to run a responsible business, because otherwise you don't have a tool. You don't have a way
Right.
to impact the world. So just that change in mentality is just not seeing the business as a source or a way to create wealth, is to impact the world. So my duty as a CEO is I have the responsibility to build a strong business, but I do it with a different end in mind, which is I have to impact the world in a good way. So
Mhm.
that is, I guess, the secret.
I think it's super powerful. And not to mention, there are easier ways to make money if that's what you're in here for.
That's right.
If that's the goal. Let's talk a little bit about failure, because you talk about how you fail at these marks
That's
constantly,
right.
right? But your goal is to always go back to them. And for me, I found that to be refreshingly honest, especially in a world where, leadership gurus pretend that they've mastered everything. So, what I really want to understand from you is when you failed, maybe compromised on one of the marks under pressure, what does that going back process look like? Is it just internal reflection, or does it really involve acknowledging the failure to your team? Because vulnerability, as we know it in leadership, sounds great in theory, but it can also be a very messy thing in practice.
Yeah. So understanding your imperfections and is very important. Is a sign of humility, right? So that's one of the 7 marks of leadership that I describe, and I call it the king of all virtues. You have to be able to. You have to understand and acknowledge that you are not perfect. Sometimes
Mhm.
we think that we only have to just achieve this, perfection
Mhm.
at all times. But what makes us great is our imperfections, because those are opportunities for us to continue to advance, to learn. And that is, I also touched that in the mark of positivity. And positivity doesn't mean, pretending that everything is good, that I am perfect or whatever. Is understanding that everything, even the negative things, even the failures, that the bad decisions will make us great. So in a sense,
Wow.
imperfection give us unlimited potential. Today we have to be better than yesterday, and tomorrow we'll be better than today. That's the attitude.
Yes.
So being vulnerable and showing this understanding or embracing your imperfection makes you even more of an effective leader, more of a human leader, because everyone fails.
There is no such thing. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I only know
exactly.
one. So one of the things that I'm also interested in is that the 7 marks aren't really limited to the workplace. So we like to take things that are good, right? And we go, this is
That's right.
about work. But you use them in your life in general. And so this means that your team actually sees you living these values outside of business hours as well. One of the
Yes.
challenges that comes to my mind when I think about that is you've got this framework. It demands authenticity. It demands character across all areas of your life. So you can't really compartmentalize. You can't be one person at work and another person at home. So how do you
That's
navigate that reality when most of us are taught to maintain boundaries between professional and personal? And have you ever had moments where the integration creates complications?
Yes, yes. So one thing, I try to live the values. The values, I actually strive for them, right? So it's something that I constantly struggle with, and I have to continue to improve. I don't think that I will ever be able to fully live those values at all times in my life. I fail, um, definitely here and there, but it's something that we all have to strive for. I lost my train of thought. What was the second
That's
part of your
okay.
question?
The second one
I'm
was,
sorry.
have you ever had moments where that integration created complications?
Guess is supposed to challenge you at all times, right? So it's not something that necessarily comes natural, something that you need to learn. It's like a muscle. It's like a workout, right? So you have to always, it's hard, but then once it gets lighter, I guess the weights, you increase your weights, you start getting better, but you have unlimited potential. As I said, you never uh, achieve that ultimate
Mhm.
perfection, I guess. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that answers your
Listen,
question.
hey, all answers are good answers. Hey, I've got something really quick for our audience. What's one value you claim to have, but haven't actually lived it when it got inconvenient for you? That's the gap that Dr. Daniel
Mm.
is talking about. We'd love for you to share your thoughts with us. Use Dynamic Decisions Podcast on social media. Okay. So the next part of this is a little exercise that I like to go through with my guests. And what we do is look at how you actually decide. So it's like looking at your decision making DNA. So I've got 4 different styles, and I want to see which ones resonate with how you operate. So after each one, you're going to give me a number from 0 to 100%, but you only get 100% total. Okay. So we got to keep track.
Mm.
And so, are you ready? You think you got it?
I am ready.
Okay. So the first one is called the feeler. It's a values driven leader. So this is the leader who, before every decision, asks themselves, does this align with who I'm becoming as a leader, regardless of the business outcomes? Here's a scenario. You've got an opportunity that would significantly grow your business, great revenue, great exposure. But as you dig in, you realize that it will require compromising on one of the 7 marks. Maybe the client's culture conflicts with your values. Maybe the timeline would force you to rush in ways that would sacrifice integrity. That
Mm.
tension between growth and character, when the smart business move conflicts with who you're committed to being, how much does that values first approach guide your decisions?
100%.
Right.
I I know I have to, but it's just I that's what we do. I don't compromise when it comes to that. So every time I see, an acquisition, I don't see how I'm going to benefit myself, but how is this acquisition going to affect the business? So I have a responsibility with the business to fulfill a specific mission, and I'm responsible for 140 families. So, and one thing that made us successful is the culture that we have, right? So, and our culture is a direct result of the way we live our values, what we stand for. So if I go and compromise in any of them, I might get something in the short term, but long term that's going to affect the business, which is my duty, my responsibility, more than my own income. And I have to make sure that everyone is taken. So I I will say definitely, I don't know, if I have 4 questions and I have to, it's probably 25%. I don't know.
It can be
I don't know if
higher
I'm
than
answering.
that. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
you got
mean,
4
it will be
questions,
probably, yeah,
75.
75%. Yeah,
Okay, let's go 75, which leaves you with 25% left for the next 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The next one is called the planner. It's a strategic visionary. So this persona thinks long term, not just about the next quarter, but about who the organization is becoming over years. So here's the question. When you're making decisions about your company or advising others, how much are you thinking about the compounding effects of character versus capability? Because results show up in quarterly reports, but character compounds slowly over years. Are you
Mhm.
building for the leader you'll be in 5 years or optimizing for the business you need to run today? So, how future focused versus present focused are your decisions?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's a balance. I when I make a decision, I think definitely how it immediately is going to, like, to the short term, and how that is going to affect the future. So I guess it's like 50-50, but um so percentage wise, I don't know. We have 15%, so we have 25%, so probably 10.
So, we'll take 10% on the planner.
It's hard not knowing what's next, right? Look.
That's the whole point. That's what makes this so much fun. Okay, here's the next one. It's called the counter. It's the challenger of assumptions. So this person questions what everyone else in leadership development accepts as true. So here's the contrarian take. So the entire leadership industry is built on the premise that you can teach leadership as a skill set, frameworks, tactics, strategies. But you're saying something different, that leadership is fundamentally about character, and character can't be hacked or optimized. So, how often do you find yourself challenging the conventional wisdom about leadership? So, when you see another leadership guru selling the 10 steps to transformational leadership, what's your reaction to that? Because your message is almost the opposite. There are no shortcuts, just the daily discipline of becoming. Okay, so Daniel, how much challenger is in your approach?
If I see any framework that is out there promising a result other than transforming yourself, if you buy into a framework that is there for you to get a result of people, I would say I 100% no way, right?
So good. That is so
It
good.
is because leadership has to transform you first. So you have to challenge you as a leader. The seven marks of leader are that of leadership are powerful because it starts with the leader. And the book is The Leader Humanity Needs, and that is the reader, right? So I'm inviting the reader to become this leader. Um, anyway, so I guess this is we have 15% left, so
Mhm.
probably it's 10 out of those 15.
All right, you got 5% left. Here we go. Here's your last one. It's called the data driver. It's an evidence based decision maker. So, this leader wants metrics, evidence, proof that the approach is working. So, here's the paradox for character driven leadership. How do you measure integrity? How do you prove that living by values creates better organizations? So, the outcomes you care about, trustworthy culture, authentic relationships, sustainable impact, those resist the kind of quantification that gets funding or convinces skeptics. So when someone asks you, prove that the seven marks work, what's your answer? Do you rely on data and case studies, or do you trust that the right people will resonate with the philosophy regardless of metrics? Give me a number. How evidence driven versus conviction driven are you?
Well, evidence is very important. Like numbers are important in terms of statistics, but I don't just measure, money or revenue or us, right? So we measure, for example, reviews. We ask patients to give us reviews and to tell us what the experience was. And I also measure reactions or how we respond to certain problems. When there are personal problems or problems with patients, how do we respond to those and how much we use our values. So I guess we only have 5%. So I guess I will say 5%. But yeah, so it is, as you said, it's hard to measure moral character other than
Right.
just experience. So yeah. But at the same time, a practice that behaves like in my business, right? So we deal with people. And when you treat people the way you're supposed to treat them, which is understanding that they are a gift in your life. I tell that to my patients, my employees. The patient that is here in your chair could be doing anything in their life. It could be spending time with family, doing something that they enjoy, and they are here gifting you gifting you their time. The only thing that they can make more of. For us, understanding just having that view will create a great customer experience, and it will produce referrals and things like that. And automatically the practice will naturally grow. And that means that also the numbers will grow and will show. So you could use that, but it's just only one piece of the puzzle. It's not everything.
Awesome. So here we are. You are 75% feeler, 10% planner, 10% counter, and 5% data driver. I'm pretty sure it's not like the perfect mix because no one person is. You might truly be 100% feeler and have others on your team who meet the mark for some of
That's
those other
right.
areas, which is how that's
That's the
supposed
beauty
to
of it,
work.
right?
That's the beauty of it. So listen, I've got one final question as we prepare to end this session. So you've said that the seven marks are an invitation for everybody to use them to become authentic leaders. What's the one thing that leaders most commonly get wrong about authentic leadership? Is it the gap between what they think it means and what it actually requires?
I think if there is one thing is understanding that leadership start with yourself. You know, if you want to influence the team in a certain way, you have to become that. You have to become and be willing to do what you're asking your team to do. I guess I'm not sure if I'm answering your question,
Sounds
but
good.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are telling them we have to live these values, or we're a value driven company, you're the first one that have to believe and practice this. You're the first one that follows the mission of your company, and that's how you inspire people. Which you just said, we have other people in our company. I've been so blessed with the quality of people that join this mission. And I guess if I have one talent or I want something that I value is that I've been able to inspire people to join this beautiful mission that we have. And that's what makes a leader successful.
Love it. And you know what? This has been really powerful. So I really thank you for being here. You're actually doing something pretty rare. You're reminding us that before we can lead anybody else, we have to become, your word, someone worth following. And that's like character work. So that's not just capabilities, which we often focus on in our society. So can you tell our listeners where they can learn more about you and more about the book?
Yes, they can go to my website is danieltataje.com. DanielTataje.com. And my book, you can find it in Amazon. There is a link in my website to buy it, but it's available in Amazon in all formats.
Awesome. So for our listeners, if this conversation's challenged you at all on how you think about leadership, whether it's a strategy or a character, whether it's about results or about who you're becoming, we'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to this show, share it with a leader who needs to hear this, and keep the conversation going with Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.